Hello everyone, it's Friday today, Friday the 22nd of July, time for another video on this channel. This channel is called Rainier Books. My name is Rainer and I do live in Sweden, a little bit south of the city of Stockholm. Today I have a book haul for you because I bought 11 books in the last couple of weeks and I want to show them to you and I want to talk a little bit about those books. Let's go. Those of you who follow my channel know that I have read two books in the Dave Wakeland series of the Canadian writer Sam Wiebe. The first two books are called The Invisible Dead, or I think Invisible Dead and Cut You Down. Cut You Down I read recently, a couple of weeks ago. And there's another book in that series. I think it was published this year in 2022. No, it was actually copyrighted by Sam Wiebe in 2021. It's called Hell and Gone by Sam Wiebe, the third part of the Dave Wakeland detective series, which plays in the city of Vancouver, the city that I visited, a city that I loved. In one moment of public violence, everything changes for Dave Wakeland. When masked shooters storm an office building in Chinatown, leaving a trail of carnage, the Vancouver PI and his partner Jeff Chan find themselves caught up in a mystery that won't let them go. If you are interested in the city of Vancouver, or if you're interested in the Pacific Northwest, or if you're interested in Canada, or if you're interested in detective fiction, you have to read Sam Wiebe. Hell and Gone. I love that book already now, although I haven't read it yet. The second one, I have actually realized one thing. Luckily, I am from Germany, which means that I speak German. It's my mother, it's my native language, right? So, because I discovered a thing that sometimes literature from other countries that is not necessarily written in English is more likely to be translated into German than into English. Or you could say that other writers, but I think on the German market there's more literature in translation than on the English-speaking market. The second book that I want to present to you is a book that I found in a German mailing list. I'm on the mailing list SWF Bestenliste, which is from a public service radio station in Germany. They have the list of the best new publications in literature and fiction. They have had that for many, many years. They have a jury of writers and critics that is always finding new books. And I read this list whenever it comes out every month. So last time, I think it was in May or in June, I found a book that was super trooper interesting to me, and it was in German. Translated from the French, because the original title in French is La Danse du Vilain, and was published by Métayer in Paris in 2020. This is actually a book that is translated into the German by Katharina Meyer and Lena Müller, and published by Zsolnay-Verlag in Germany. This is a book from Congo, from the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is by Fiston, Mwanza, Mujila, Dance of the Devils, or as it is called in German, Tanz der Teufel. This sounded so interesting to me. Apparently, the author, Fiston Mwanza Mujila, has already, with his debut, which was called Tram 83, created a very new form of novel. And now Dance of the Devil, it says, it's about the effects of colonization, about globalization, about stealing resources, and about civil war. It's a very satirical look on the African continent. And this book plays somewhere in the border area between Angola and Congo, in the mines of Luanda Norte and in the center of Lubumbashi. Women without age are dancing, diamond seekers, crooks and agents from all the world are dancing the dance of the devil. It sounds very intriguing, very interesting, and very exciting. I can't wait to read this book by Fiston, Mwanza Mujila, Tanz der Teufel. Sometimes I get inspiration from authors, because an author tells me, you should read this author. When I had read Mikio Kawakami's novel, All the Lovers in the Night, I watched a lot of discussions about the book that Mieko Kawakami had on YouTube. And she had one discussion with the American author Fajardo Anstine, which I recommended also when I did a review about the novel by Kawakami. And in this interview, Fajardo Anstine asks Miyako Kawakami, could you recommend to us some other Japanese writers, that female Japanese writers that are different, that are courageous, that are like you, a little bit like you? And she said, after a while of thinking, Miyako Kawakami said, yeah, there's one writer that you absolutely should take a look at. She's already translated into English. Her name is Natsuko Kirino. And here I have from the Japanese, translated from Stephen Snyder, I ordered this book, Out, by Natsuko Kirino from Japan. Without knowing much about what this is about, I just wanted to have it. It's a beautiful edition, actually, here. It's Vintage Japanese Classics. That's the edition by the publisher, who is Vintage, and a division of Penguin in the United Kingdom. This book was written in 1997 by Kirino. It was translated already in 2003, so it has been on the market quite a while. This is about Tokyo, 4 women who work the graveyard shift at a factory, burdened with heavy debts, alienated from husbands and children. They all secretly dream of a way out. A young mother among them finally cracks and strangles her philandering, gambling husband. She confesses her crime to her colleagues, and unexpectedly they agree to help. This is Out by Natsuko Kirino. Third book. I have more. I talked about Fajardo Anstine, right? I read her beautiful book. I listened to her beautiful short story collection, Sabrina and Kirino, which was her debut 2 or 3 years ago. I think 3 years ago. And now she's out in June this year, came her first novel called Woman of Light by Fajardo Anstine. And this is from Denver, Colorado, a transfixing novel about survival, family secrets, and love, filled with an unforgettable cast of characters as special, memorable, and complicated as our beloved heroine Luz. So this is about indigenous Chicano families in the American West, and I also absolutely love this. Published by One World, Fajardo Anstine. Keep that name in mind. You will hear it again probably when I do a prediction for the novels that should be nominated for the National Book Award of 2022. A novel that was nominated for an award, a novel that is from the Caribbean. The Caribbean has become sort of an area, I know it's very diverse, but it has become a part of the world where I'm really interested in reading more about and from the Caribbean islands. This is about Athea Lopez. She's about to turn 40. She lives in Port of Spain in Trinidad. She witnesses a woman murdered by a jealous lover. The reality of her own future comes a little too close to her. This is from Trinidad. This was nominated for the Woman Prize for Fiction. It was actually on the short list. And this is called The Bread the Devil Knead or the Devil Ned by Lisa Allen-Agostini. The fifth one. Now let's go back to German. You know what I said? Some books are translated into German that are not being translated into English. And I was in Portugal, as some of you may know. I was in Portugal and I love Portugal. I was there for the 4th time, for the 3rd time actually with my 2 kids. And we were in a beautiful place south of Lisbon called Costa da Caparica. I did some videos there. I also did a video about going to Sintra. So if you're interested in Portugal, watch these videos on the channel. But I also wanted to read more Portuguese literature. So I learned that one of the greatest living Portuguese authors, who's actually every year in the talk for the Nobel Prize for Literature, he's he's 80 years old this year, and I hope that he gets it this year, is a guy called Antonio Lobo Antunes. And Antonio Lobo Antunes is an author who's not so much translated into English. At least the books that I wanted to have of him are not translated into English. This is published by Luchterhand in Germany. The first one I have here was translated from the Portuguese by Maralde Meyer-Minnemann. Published by Luchterhand in 2017. 2014 it was written by Antunes and published. And this is called Ich gehe wie ein Haus in Flammen. This is about a house in Lisbon and about all the people who inhabit that house and about all their life stories. And Antunes weaves them all together, these different lives of people. It's a polyphone with polyphone voices. All the tenants of a normal house in Lisbon come to talk here. They tell us from their lives, from their past, from their desires and from their fears. They come from Portugal, Africa or Ukraine. They are young and old. They're lonely and sick or angry, and they don't know much about each other. What unites them is the desperate search for meaning, for warmth and for love. Antonio Lobo Antunes. Ich gehe wie ein Haus in Flammen. I go like a house in flames. The second one I bought from Antonio Lobo Antunes, I bought a second book from him, is in Swedish. I got it in Sweden, and in Sweden it was published by a publisher called Modernista. And it was translated by Marianne Eire into the Swedish language, and it's a very bricky book, as I call them. It's my new word. And this is called Fado Alexandrino. You know Fado, the sad and beautiful melancholic music from Lisbon and the Lisbon area. And this is called Fado Alexandrino. This is in 1975, a decade after the Civil War. Mozambique got free from Portugal, from the colonial power of Portugal. And 10 years later, in 85, some army veterans meet in a pub in Lisbon. The colonel, who is still in the military, another guy who has married someone in the upper class, another soldier who became a leftist revolutionary, and then somebody else who works in his uncle's company moving people around. And a fifth one who is sitting very silent at the table. The wine and the alcohol is flooding all the night. The night gets dark, and the histories they tell each other and the stories they tell each other get more and more intimate when they go back to the war and they tell about their lives after the fall of the dictatorship in Portugal. This is Fado Alexandrino by Antonio Lobo Antunes. Wow, beautiful books. Jennifer Egan's The Candy Room is one of the books that I acquired this summer. It's a sequel and not a sequel to A Visit from the Goon Squad, which I DNF'd earlier this year because I thought it was confusing me a little bit. Some of the characters of the Goon Squad are appearing again in this novel 10 years later. So this is one of the books that I have here, one of the 11 books that I'm presenting you in this book haul. And one book that many people have raved about, have talked about, great advertisement campaign as well, by Bloomsbury, published earlier this year, is Nightcrawling by Leila Mottley, about, it seems to be some kind of true crime thriller in a way, but also it's not. As far as I understand, it's a debut novel about the life of a woman in Oakland, California, which is, for those of you who know, or don't know, Oakland is almost the sister city of San Francisco. It's over the bay, almost, on the other side of the bridge, so to speak. Here it says it's an unforgettable novel about young people navigating the darkest corners of an adult world, told with a humanity that is at once agonizing and utterly mesmerizing. Nightcrawling, and since I read Elena Knows by Claudia Pinheiro for a couple of weeks ago, and since I really liked the publishing house of Charco Press in Edinburgh, Scotland, I thought I'd get me another one of their books, and they only publish Latin American authors. So here I have another one from them. I think it was published in 2019. It's a beautiful publisher, and it's it was published in 20, written in 2014, translated from the Spanish by Annie McDermott, and this is by the Argentinian author and journalist Selva Almada, and it's called Dead Girls by Charco Press. Dead Girls is a journalistic novel, as far as I understand, about femicide in Argentina, about 3 young women killed in Argentina before femicide even was a word or a phrase that people recognized in the world all over. So this is the book haul that I intended to show to you. 11 books, and I hope that I will be able to read them this year. there's so many other books waiting and so many things waiting. That's the problem with us booktubers, with us book lovers, that we always have some attractions in our eyes and our hearts that sort of drag us away from the books that we actually wanted to read. We are polyamorous as book lovers. That's what we are. We have to accept it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you return to the channel and see you. Bye bye.